Hey guys, welcome back to Black Clover Mobile. In today's video, I wanted to do an updated tier list for where I feel the meta is currently at. Now, I always think Pride Win is a great site to look to for the tier lists and stuff like that. Now, we are going to be focusing on global PvP in this one. For PvE, I think you're pretty safe to look at this. PvE, in my opinion, is pretty basic. There's a couple good units that you want to pick up. You know, everyone starts with Mars, Lotus, Julius, obviously, Noelle. They're the units you get, and then you sort of fill it out as you go. So I'm not too stressed on PvE. I am talking more about PvP in this video, and I just wanted to talk about what I am seeing in the upper leagues, most predominantly, and talk about where I see the meta being at the moment. Now, I've tried to lay it out in this sort of format, and obviously every character isn't in this because I don't really care once we start bumping down into B, C, and D tier. I don't care where you start putting those units, but I just wanted to go through the main units that I have been seeing and talk about their placements. So the first thing I want to go is, so I've put my S plus tier as the meta. So basically it is very hard to find a team that doesn't have Noelle and Julius in it, aside from people trying to counter Noelle and Julius. So that's why they are the meta at the moment. Noelle, obviously, with her shields can be incredibly annoying. They get super chunky. If you don't get them down, you're kind of boned, especially when you start fighting max dupe Noelles with Julius, and she starts putting her shield onto the Julius, and especially on speed teams that move before you, and then she puts her shield on Julius, meaning he gets the revenge, but she's also got her max dupe revenge, so they both have the revenge, and that is even more tricky to deal with. So these two are definitely the meta. Obviously, Julius tap a unit and then uses AoE and reset people with his skill page, or what I've been finding more annoying is when people start putting him using his skill 2 first, and then Noelle using her ult, and you just get so much AoE damage that it's like almost impossible to survive. So it doesn't matter really which way these guys are played, they're always incredibly strong, and they're either going to be played in a speed boosting team with Finral, Valtos, or both, or they're going to be played in more of a tanky team using things like Rades, Mars, Mimosa, or Charmy, and that's the way you're normally going to see them in general, aside from the times that you see them over here with Vengeance. Now, let's jump into this and talk about these units a bit more, because like I've said, I've got two S tiers. One is for meta support / counter, that being those units that support the meta, which is these two at the top, or that counter them. And then I've got S sub meta options, which is like damage dealers, because our S plus is only damage dealers at the moment. So it's like kind of damage dealing options that you can choose besides them that still kind of fit into where the meta is at, and I'll talk about those positions as well. So firstly, we've got Rades. Rades is incredibly annoying, especially, and once again, in the upper leagues, pretty much every Noelle and Julius you fight is max duped, and if they can be moving before you with a Rades and putting his shield up for Noelle, it means she's already got her shield. You're not going to pop her shield because it's got Rades shield on top of it, and she's just got that revenge, and she can ult first turn, still have the survivability, and still be able to revenge, plus now they're immune to stuns, and it's just absolutely annoying. So Rades is fantastic for that. Then we have Mars. Mars is obviously the stun man. Now, in the first sort of season, in season 1, we had Mars getting paired with Lotus a lot. Lotus has completely fallen out of the meta, in my opinion. You never see him. He's too slow. He doesn't work in what the current meta is with how quick it is, and he's essentially just doesn't work in it, in my opinion. But Mars still has his place because Mars can use his AoE stun, which is fantastic. On offense teams, you can use him to draw attention, and in general, he's just an absolute beast of a unit. He's got his AoE stun, which allows you to get a combo attack with someone else. Then he's got his single target stun and his single target taunt. Just an absolute monster unit. Then we have Mimosa. Now, Mimosa is always a fantastic option. You can run her on a full defense build. She still has access to that revive. She has damage mitigation. She has just good healing in general. So she is a fantastic supportive unit, and can be super frustrating on enemies' defenses, but super helpful on your offense as well. And then we have Charmy. I think Charmy's a little bit below Mimosa in my personal opinion, even though she fits in elementally to the meta better, where Mimosa is weak to the Noelle. However, Charmy is strong to Noelle and neutral to Julius. But I think the Charmy, the revive is too clutch in a lot of situations over here. But if an enemy team starts rolling with a Charmy and gets all those heals going, especially if she's got a couple dupes, it just becomes an absolute nightmare. Then not much needs to be said about this. This is like these two almost popped into the meta, but they're not absolutely everywhere, so I didn't want to put them up there. But the speed meta is a thing, and especially in upper leagues, everyone just runs speed meta with the 3-speed stones, and it becomes just speed ties around the board. Or if you don't have that 3-speed, you just lose and you got to do another strategy. So those two are crazy. Then we have Vengeance. Now Vengeance is only in here, in my opinion, if he is max duped, because that gets him to be faster than Finral and Veltos, and that means you have a unit that can break the speed meta. Commonly, you will see him paired with a Mars to use his combo at the very start with Mars to try and get some clutch stuns to win and disrupt. Very good combo on defense. Is a maxed out Vengeance with a Mars, because it's just so disruptive to the enemy team. And this guy, especially if he has a skill page and stuff, he can be just an absolute just nightmare to deal with. And yeah, he's just crazy. So he's one that I really want to max dupe myself, but I've only got the one copy so far. Then we have Blue Yami. I made a video going through the way I've been using my Blue Yami. He fits in well elementally against the current meta, and obviously his combo attack has a shield break, which can be very valuable in stopping those revenges that come from the Noelle shield. And then if Noelle doesn't shield, he can normally live her ult, and if he does that, then he can go ahead and use an ult himself to lock one of the enemies out of their ultimate and also their skill 2, which is just a really valuable thing to have. So you won't see him being used too often unless it is to try and counter these guys on teams that are just sacrificing speed and know that they're going to lose to the speed meta. So sub-meta options, we have the Raya Licht combo. It's still a very valid combo. If you can outspeed your enemies. If you can outspeed your enemies and they're running Noelle Julius, you can probably still kill both of them because they're normally pretty squishy in general, and you can get through both of them, but it's just not 100% reliable, and it's not the greatest combo now that these two do exist, especially once we start looking into getting these guys duped and into better gear ranges. It becomes harder and harder for these two to perform, but they are still there. Sometimes you will see them. Then I've put Kyato in here, or Kaito, I can't remember how we even say it. I don't even know how it's spelled. But this dude, he does have that massive guaranteed crit and nuke, which can be really, really strong if you don't have something like Julius. This is more looking towards people who are starting in the next day or so. After the Julius banner, you won't have other options. So he is going to be a really decent nuker. Because when we look at the other damaging options of like the blue damaging options, and when I look at something like Blue Yami and also Julius, those two won't be accessible anymore. So he's kind of like your next best option. And then what I want to go through here was the great, but out of meta. These guys are just out of touch with the meta currently, in my opinion. Red Asta is fantastic. This guy is an absolute monster. You know, you get your extra turns, works really well. He's just an absolute beast damage dealer. However, in this current meta, he just doesn't quite fit when you are fighting against Noelle and Julius, and he's just going to get instant targeted by Julius. It just doesn't feel so great, and he doesn't have that advantage. So I think he's just out of meta, but in different metas, he will come back up. Then I already mentioned Lotus. I just feel like he doesn't have the speed to compete with what you need to do. Yes, slowing enemies is fantastic, but we're in a speed meta where you just get insta-clapped anyway. And if you're trying to slow down, then he's stuck with 2 AoE attacks. So he will often be just AoEing into Noelle's shield, meaning that you're just getting revenged and then your team's getting clapped. So for that reason, he doesn't quite fit in at the moment, in my opinion. Then we have the buffer and the debuffer. Now, Sally is really good. She does have the extra buffs for Noelle, which is fantastic, but I think currently most people will be running Finral and Veltos on the same team, or they will be running one of them, and then you may as well run triple DPS if you have them built. Otherwise, you can run one of them. It just depends what your enemy has. If you can guarantee yourself to outspeed with just a Finral or just a Veltos, then you can go ahead and use the Sally, or once again Charlotte, same sort of thing, and then you can run these two as well, and you can pretty much get through it, or you could just run a third DPS. I normally run something like a Yami, who then gives me extra options for control and stuff like that instead of raw damage. But either way, they can work. But once again, I feel like these aren't as predominant in the supporting of the meta as these units up the top here. And that's why I've put them down here, being that they're great, but they're not completely meta at the moment. And that is pretty much my thoughts. Like I said, anything else you want to look at, I think generally this tier list is really good. But that is just, like I said, I've been playing a lot of PvP, I've been practicing a lot of teams, and I've been fighting a lot of enemies in the upper leagues. And that's sort of what I'm seeing at the current stage of the game. So let me know what you guys think. Once again, this is just my personal opinion. Let me know any comments down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.